I went to Comic Palooza today, and I'm going to give you a few of my thoughts on it, as well as some of my thoughts on Artist Alley in general and at Comic Palooza in particular. So stay tuned. Hi, my name's Eagle. I'm the publisher at No Earth Comics, and I'm also one of the artists. And today I'm going to be working on a Captain America piece I've been working on for the last few videos, and giving you a rundown on my trip out to Comic Palooza today. So let's take a look at what we're doing on the artwork here. First off, one of my reasons for going to conventions like this is to find new artists and new comic creators. And I have to say that is beginning to get pretty disappointing. To date, I have gotten not one single artist from a comic convention. I have gotten 2 writers from comic conventions, but not one single artist. And this breaks down to a number of reasons. Used to be that if you went to a comic convention, you could not swing a dead tree cat without hitting 3 or 4 artists who had a portfolio that they were begging any comic book company in the world to look at. And this is the way that a number of artists actually got discovered. This was the standard way of doing it. You paid your dues, you went to various conventions, you talked to people, you hobnobbed, you did portfolio reviews, and you got the feedback on exactly what you were doing that needed to improve, and you went and improved it, and you came back later and said, "How's this?" And that was the way that went. And there's just not as much of that happening anymore. And that's a shame, because that was one of the things that comic book conventions were good for. But one of the things that I've noticed in going to artist alleys is that most of the artists are interested in doing fan art. And they are not interested at all in doing sequential art. They don't want to do it. They don't feel that there's money in it, or they don't feel that that's their calling, or I'm not sure what the deal is there, but it's not what they want to do. And so what it winds up with is they're doing fan art, period. And I have mixed feelings on fan art. Mind you, I do some fan art myself. And I obviously do. In fact, I'm doing fan art right now. But I also do my original creations. And I would prefer to be doing almost entirely my own creations. I have no desire to be known as a fan artist. I have a desire to be known as an artist. So it surprises me that for a number of people, that is their ambition, is to do fan art. They want to do anime. They want to do manga. They want to do comic book characters in their own unique style, but they have no desire to do actual sequential work. In other words, the true work of a comic book artist. They want to be basically a pinup artist. And, well, I suppose if you're Greg Hughes, you can get away with that. But most people actually need to do sequential work to become well known in the field. And so that's always a disappointing thing to me. But I deal with it because that's just my own personal beliefs. I am definitely not telling anyone that they're doing it wrong. It's just I don't understand why they're doing it that particular way. That does not make them wrong. It doesn't make me right. As a publisher, what I'm always looking for is people who are interested in pursuing comic books. And so that's part of the reason for going to a comic book convention. Although, I should point out that one of the things that places like Comic Palooza show me is that comic books are no longer the focus of comic book conventions. And this has been true for a while. I'm not telling anyone anything new. but it's it's kind of disappointing in some ways. In other ways, I like seeing the big mix of different types of fan culture all in one place. My buys today were some prints, a box of Munchkin, and a couple of bricks of HeroClix. I looked at a bunch of stuff today, but that was what I actually wound up going home with. In other words, gaming and comics. And prints. One of the discussions that I ran across on Facebook this week was how much to charge for prints at conventions, and the question was, could they switch over to $20 a print? And I thought it was an interesting question. I chimed in, I sell my prints for $10 for the 11 by 17, 12 by 18 size. And, that's what I do. And that's pretty much the going rate in this part of Texas. And I don't have a problem doing that because it's a decent profit margin. In fact, the profit margin on prints at $10 a pop is considerably better than the profit margin that we're getting on comic books at $7 a piece. All told, I'm making more money selling a $10 print than I am selling a $7 comic. So I don't mind $10 prints. But there were a lot of people that were talking about how $15 is standard for prints, and I was absolutely crazy. So when I went to the show today, that was one of the things I was looking at was print costs. And there were a couple of people selling $20 prints. Most people were selling, there were a few more selling $15 prints. Most people were selling $10 prints. I saw one person selling $7 prints. Actually, no, I'm sorry, they were selling $8 prints. They were selling 2 for $15. And the fact is, if you're selling a print, an 11 by 17 print for $15 or $20, you are making a killing. You are making a huge amount of money. Well, no, you know what? I'm going to take that back. You might not be making a huge amount of money because you might be paying entirely too much for your prints. But I would be making a huge amount of money, and to be honest, I'd probably feel bad about selling them for that price because it is hitting the price gouging point, not the healthy profit point. While I may be a capitalist through and through, I don't believe that you charge what the market will bear when that turns into a huge profit margin. I believe that at some point in time you have to say, you know what, this profit margin is fine. I don't need to raise it any higher even if the market will bear it. But that's just me. So, in any case, that's the market report there. Now then, one of the things that is very different is that the group that I was reading about this on is not a comic book artist group. It is a artist alley group. And therefore, most of what they are selling based on the pictures that they post appears to be manga and anime related. And yes, I know the difference between a manga and an anime, and fan art of either one is just fan art. So, most of what I attend is comic book conventions or comic book oriented conventions, and most of the artwork that I look at is oriented towards that. But today I was looking at all of the artwork and paying attention to all the prices for the very reason that I was trying to figure out, are people charging $20 for a print? I bought 2 prints today. Both of them were from name artists. And by name artist, I mean published comic book artists. Okay. I bought a Kevin Maguire, and he charged 20 bucks. And you know what? He's Kevin Maguire. He can charge 20 bucks, and we'll go into that in a moment. The other one was from Steve Laoli, and he charged $10. And I was happy to pay both of them because I firmly believe that they deserve every single penny I can throw their way. Both of them are artists that I grew up looking at and respecting, and I'm fixing to get preachy here. Just bear with me. The comic book industry treats its creators abysmally. I want to make that perfectly clear. There is no conscience in the way that the comic book industry treats its creators. In the first place, the creators are independent contractors. They have no insurance other than what they provide for themselves. They have no retirement. They are not, for the most part, receiving royalties. This is something that is a grave injustice, and it has caused a number of comic book creators to die penniless, sick, and abandoned. Whenever I see an old school comic creator that's at a convention, I try to make sure that even though I am a starving artist myself, that at least one of them goes home with $10 to $20 of my money. Because I know that most of that money that I spent on that print is going to them. They're not having to share it with anybody. And that leads me to something else that I've been wanting to talk about, and it's an excellent segue into it, and that is supporting the people that create the things that you love. If you have a chance at a convention, here, let me take a look at you while I'm talking about this. If you've got a chance at a convention to walk up and say hi to somebody that you've been reading their stuff or looking at their art for the vast majority of your life, do it. Shake their hands. Don't be shy about it. This is somebody that likes the adoration, that likes the fan base, that likes the fact that they are affecting people in a positive way. Take advantage of that and shake their hand. And buy a print. Buy a comic. Buy something off of their table. Doesn't matter if it's a note card print. Doesn't matter what it is. Buy something off their table. It doesn't have to be big. But pick one or two out and do that. And I realize that there's a lot of stuff over there on the fan art tables. It looks pretty cool, but you know what? I bought 2 prints today, and I'm very happy with both of them. And both of them I got autographed, and it really helped. I've gotten some great prints and autographs that way, and I'm not going to hand them a book to autograph unless I'm also buying something off of their table to autograph. Now, if they're charging for the autographs, yeah. But if they are not charging for autographs, I am going to buy something off of their table for them to autograph. Because they need to go home with a little bit more money because they are not supported in the way that an artistic person should be supported. If you are an author of a book, you get royalties forever. If you are an author of a book and that book is sold to the movies, you get royalties. Do you know how many people are wandering around in the comic book world whose story has been adapted onto a TV show or a movie or an animated series and they never saw a penny for it? The characters they created are popular and they don't see any residuals off of this because what they did was work for hire as an independent contractor. And this is something that is unique to the comic book industry. It doesn't happen in music. It doesn't happen in movies. It doesn't happen to actors. It doesn't happen to to authors. It happens to comic book creators. So please, if you have a chance to support a creator that you enjoy, do so. Sermon over. Okay, so one of the things that I've noticed about a lot of the conventions is that there's a whole lot of cosplay going on, and I love cosplay. I was doing cosplay before it was called cosplay. We have people who are purists. In fact, we have people who are convinced that they are a better fan than somebody else. And they denigrate cosplayers by going, well, they don't even know the character that they're portraying. They're just doing it off of the looks or whatever. And yeah, so what? That's true. Everybody's allowed to be a fan in their own way. But one of the things that I'm really enjoying is a lot of the mashup cosplay. I saw a great one today, and if you haven't seen the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, I'm sorry about the spoilers here, but I saw a Yondu Mary Poppins mashup today that had me laughing. There were just a number of great cosplays, but one of the things that's very true is most of the cosplays are for well-known characters, and that's something that's actually fairly new. When I was doing costuming at conventions, a lot of times there was a certain thrill to doing a costume that you had to explain to somebody what it was. The thrill in that was that you had a level of fandom that they didn't have. That was always kind of a little bit of one-upmanship. And so what I'd love to see is more cosplays being done of indie comics characters, webcomics characters. That there's so much room, and it'd be nice to see more of it. Okay. I think that's going to wrap it up for this one. If you are interested in helping out, we have a Patreon going. I'll put a link to that in the description. We've got a number of artists and writers working for us that are depending on the royalties that we pay. So please help support your independent comic book artists and writers. But that's going to do it for now. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll talk again.